Welcome to this code clinic in which we will explore a solution that parallels problem 1. Recall that in our original problem statement, we are to count the even numbers 2 through 10, and that's going to be done twice, once in a for next loop, and then a second time using a pretest loop, a while loop. In our modified problem statement, instead of counting the even numbers from 2 to 10, we're going to generate the odd numbers from 1 through 9. We'll do that again in 2 loops. We'll do it one time through using a for next loop, and a second time through using a while loop. Note that we have made one change to the starter problem, and that is for convenience, we're going to set the initial value of the odd num variable to 1 before we start the while loop, and you'll see very shortly why that's a convenience. As we get started on this parallel project, let me point out a couple of important changes in the parallel version. So number one, the variable name even num has been changed to odd num to reflect the actual process that we're now engaged in, which is generating some odd numbers. The other thing is note that down here between where we're going to put our counted loop, our for next loop, and our while loop, we have changed the initialization of the counter value to 1 from 0, and that's going to prove very convenient. All right, so let's go ahead and construct what we need to do here. Let's start by putting in a for next loop, so a counted loop that is going to count the odd numbers from 1 until 9. Okay, so let's go ahead and click here, and let's click beneath that, and let's insert our for loop, and let's change the variable that's going to control the loop, and it's going to be odd num, and let's start it with 1, and the terminal value will be 9, and we're going to increase that by a step of 2, so it will count 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and then terminate. Okay. All right, and then once we've counted that, we should drop in a display here. And so let's go ahead and put in the output. And what we're going to display is just the value of odd num. Okay. All right, so down here, we haven't finished the work. Let's test what we have so far and see as we come into this for next loop if that's operating as we expect. So let's test it. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and that's what we were hoping to achieve. And now let's use a while loop, and a while loop is a pre-test loop, so we're going to do the test before we start. Also note that by changing this from initializing it from 0 to initializing it as 1, then we're already on the first value of the loop. We'll print it the first time, and then we will add the additional offset to the loop to get to 3, and then every time it goes through the loop, we'll increment by 2 more. Unlike the for next loop, which provides the loop counter, we're going to need to provide the incrementer in this loop. So let's go ahead and see how that's done. And let's drop a while loop in there. So again, a while is a pre-test loop. Do while, if this test is true, then it executes the loop body, meaning that the fewest number of times that loop body might execute is 0, because if we come in and the test is not true, it will never execute, as opposed to a post-test loop. So let's see what would a post-test loop look like. If we were doing a post-test loop, we would do a loop until loop, or a do until loop. Okay, so that would actually execute the loop body first, then it would execute the test, and if the test is true, it would execute it subsequent times. This will always execute at least one time, but that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for a pretest loop. So let's go ahead and switch back, at least in Flogarhythm, that's a do while loop. And let's go ahead and we still want to output the display. So let's just copy the display and paste it in there. Okay, but notice that at this point, we don't have a loop test and we don't have a sentinel value. When are we going to end? So we need to set up our loop test. So when do we want to do this loop? So we want to do this loop while odd num is less than or equal to the value 9. Okay, so it's going to come through here, but again, at this point, if we leave it this way, it will run forever because the value of odd num as it goes through this loop never gets changed. So we need to change the value of odd num. All right, so let me start with a little bit of an error and see if you can see it as I make it. So every time I go through here, I'm going to start with odd num is already set to 1. Well, that's convenient. And every time through, I want to add 2 to it. So it'll go 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So I'm about to make the mistake. See if you can catch it. So I'm going to assign odd num is equal to whatever odd num was before and add 2 to it. Do you see the error? Let's run it and see if you can see it. So I'll run this. And we go through our output, and so the first batch is from our for next loop, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. But then we come down here, and it doesn't start with 1. It starts with 3, 5, 7, 9. And it goes to 11. Wait, what's happening? Okay, so before we'd output that 1, we come in, it's already at the value of 1. Before we would output, we've already added 2 to it. So what we need to do is simply move this down here. So let's go ahead and cut that and paste it in beneath. And now it will output 1 before it adds 2. And so when we run it now, again, here's our output from the first loop, our for next, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. And then after that, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. And that should complete the exercise. This concludes the lesson.